Hello everyone, and now we will see cardiac arrhythmias. As you know, this is one of the cardiovascular system disorder, and um, we are talking about the chemistry of drugs involved for the treatment of cardiac arrhythmias. Let us see some definitions related to cardiac arrhythmias. Cardiac arrhythmias results from alteration in the orderly sequence of depolarization followed by the repolarization in the heart. Cardiac arrhythmias may result in the alteration in the heart rate or rhythm and arise from alteration in simple generation or conduction. As the definitions are given here, the rhythm basically depend on the depolarization and the repolarization of the heart, and when there is a disturbances of the sequence, it generates the cardiac arrhythmias. Also, there is a simple generation of conduction of impulses from different positions in the heart, and if there is alteration found in those rhythms, there might be results in the cardiac arrhythmias. This is a electrophysiology of cardiac rhythm. As you can see here, this is SA node, AV node located here. This is bundle of phase. This is right branch. Now here it is a left branch. Uh, it is surrounded by the ventricles, and specifically we talk about the electrophysiology of this rhythm. It starts from the impulse generation of this SA node to the bundle of keys. Impulse generation and conduction. When we consider the impulse generation, a lot of positions, locations for the impulse generation. It starts from the SA node, then to AV node, and then bundle of his, then Purkinje fibers. These are considered for the conducting tissues, and for contractiles, for the generation and the blood flow, we have to consider atria and ventricles. Some cardiac potential phases are just to consider the different phases here. We have total 5 phases, which can be divided into a 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now for the phase 0 we have a rapid depolarization, in phase 1 we have early repolarization. In phase 2 we have a plateau phase. uh, Phase 3, it is known for the rapid repolarization, and phase 4, it is for resting phase. This is a different types of ions that can migrate through the membranes, and it has a different actions as we considered on the different phases of, as this figure shows here. If we consider, this is the outer phase of this membrane, and this is the inner phase of this membrane. A lot of ions like sodium and calcium, they involve outer side. uh, if we see here, we have potassium and chloride, as well as calcium, that is also involved inside the membrane. So for consideration of phase 0, sodium is considered as a primary ion that is taking part here. The sodium is taking entry from the outside to inside, and if you consider similarly, it has shown some dark arrow that indicates this sodium is involved for the influx. Similarly, when there is a sodium influx, there is a coming out of the potassium coming out here. That indicates here with the phase 0 and phase 1, In between this phase 1 and phase 2, we consider there is a influx of calcium, Ca2 plus influx of calcium, and that particular influx is considered for the influx of potassium and chloride. So they are considered as a channel currents, and this continues up to the phase 3. From phase 2 to phase 3 there is a efflux of potassium and chloride. Similarly, if we move to phase 3 to phase 4, uh, potassium pump, sodium potassium pump is activated here, and the sodium potassium pump is generally considered with the help of the ATP. So this is sodium potassium pump exchanger. It is shown here in the figure. When there is a influx of one potassium, there is a influx of one sodium. Similarly, if we consider after phase 4, there is a from outside to inside there is a sodium that taking entry, and there is a efflux of calcium that takes place. So this particular efflux and influx is particular depend on the exchanger. So these ions plays important role for maintenance of your action potential during the phase 0 to phase 4. Now here if we consider this figure here, this shows most of the time this effective refractory period, they are considered as a absolute refractory period and a relative refractory period. We consider these influx and efflux of these ions basically depend on these refractory period. So here this is shown here. ARP is absolute refractory period, and RRP is a relative refractory period. So when there is a phase 0 starts, and after declining of phase 3 there is an absolute refractory period, and from phase 3 to phase 4 we have RRP, that is relative refractory period. Let us consider now next important phenomena is re-entry phenomena. What is a re-entry phenomena here is due to the abnormality of conduction, an impulse may recirculate in the heart, and it causes some repetitive actions without the need of any new impulse to be generated. These phenomena generally known as a re-entrant arrhythmias. There is one more circus movement type. A premature impulse temporarily blocked in one direction by refractory tissue makes a one-way transit around an obstacle. Find the original spot in an advanced state of recovery, and it re-excites it, setting up the recurrent activation of adjacent myocardium. Now this re-entry phenomena is particularly depend on the impulse generation, and that impulse they are not generated because they might activate, they might produce some kind of repetitiveness in those generation. So here in this figure we are looking here for the generation of re-entrant rhythm, and here it is a normal rhythm generation. Here simple normal rhythm comes and it goes to the proper direction. If we compare this, these are the damaged rhythm entries in the areas of myocardium. Let us consider the first one. If we consider a rhythm comes here, and due to the blockage it tries to take entry from this side, but due to the blockage it cannot enter here, so it enters from this direction to this direction. So it will be a impulse blockade, and it tries to go out from the other side of the blockage area. So what will happen due to the blockage? This impulse cannot go from the one direction, so it try to continue in the continuous circulation pattern. Here this is an example. If the impulse is coming from this side and it has to go to this side, but due to the damaged area it produces some kind of continuous circulation pattern. So this type of circulation pattern is due to the generation of considered as the re-entrant rhythm. So this is a re-entrant rhythm for the area of myocardium, and this disturbs the normal pattern of conduction and permits the continuous circulation of impulse to occur. We'll move to the classes of arrhythmic drugs now, as we have seen some of these refractory period and the conduction. So basically this is the classification based on the different mechanism, basically refractory period and action potential. So it is divided into different types like class 1A, class 1B and 1C. Similarly class 2, class 3 and class 4. Let us look at the drugs involved in various these classes. Class 1A involved with quinidine, procainamide, disopyramide. The mechanism for this class 1A is lengthens the refractory period. Then class 1B, drugs involved in this class 1B are lidocaine, phenytoin, tocinite and mesalazine. The mechanism is it shortens the duration of action potential. Then class 1C drugs are enkinide, flecainide, lorcainide, morphine and propafenone. The mechanism involved for this class 1C is it slows the conduction. Then comes your class 2, beta adrenergic blockers. Example is propranolol. The mechanism involved here is it slows the AV conduction time. It suppresses the automaticity. Then comes class 3. The examples are amiodarone, bretylium, sotalol. The mechanism involved here is prolonged refractoriness. And if we consider the class 1 and the class 2, it particularly depends on the refractoriness than the refractory period and action potential. Then we'll move to the class 1, class 4, that is calcium channel blockers. Example verapamil, diltiazem. The mechanism is block the slow inward calcium channel. Here basically depend on the different mechanism as we have seen earlier. This is a summary of the charts of the different classes of drugs like class 1A, 1B, 1C, class 2, class 3 and class 4. Basically class 1A is depend on the mechanisms of sodium channel blockade, and their primary site of action is atrial and ventricular tissues. Similarly class 1B, they are also involved in the sodium channel blockade, but the primary site of action is different than class 1A, that is ventricular tissues. Similar to class 1A and class 1B, class 1C, that is what is involved in sodium channel blockage, and similar to class B, the primary site of action is ventricular tissues. Then class 2, that is beta blockers, they are considering the blockage of sympathetic stimulations of beta adrenergic receptors. and the primary site of action is SA node and AV node. Then class 3, they are considered generally as a potassium channel blockers, and the primary site of action is atrial and ventricular tissue. Then class 4, calcium channel blockers. Again, primary site of action is similar to class 2, that is SA node and AV node. Class A1 drugs here. Generally, we talk about class 1 drugs, and they are considered as a sodium channel blockers. Similarly, they are membrane depressing drugs. Uh, when they have developed these drugs, they have considered few parameters here, and the first parameter is a pH dependent drugs, because these class 1 drugs, they are generally of local anesthetic types, and local anesthetics have some similarity, and they are developed as a pattern of pH dependent, and these drugs, they may vary different with each other. So from this consideration, if we try to find out the arrhythmic drugs from the class 1, they are a weaker basis, and almost all these are having pK values ranging from 7.5 to 9.5, but at physiological pH it is 7.40, because this bases exist as an equilibrium mixture consisting both free base and its cationic form. When we consider the pK values of these weakly bases of antiarrhythmic drugs, uh, and generally these at physiological pH, they are at considered as pH of 7.40. So to understand the basic idea of the consideration of the values and ionization, let us consider one example of lidocaine. Its pK value is 7.86, and it is the ionizable drug and has a stronger electrophysiological effect and ischemic rather than normal myocardial cells. The potentiation has been attributed in a part to the increase in hydrogen concentration within the ischemic areas of heart. Now, once the lidocaine is ionized, it releases the hydrogen ion, and this hydrogen ion is generally useful for the increase in hydrogen ion concentration in the areas of heart. This concentration, when increase in that areas, particularly ischemic areas, then because of the proton, there is a acidosis occurs, and this acidosis increases the proportion of sodium ion channels, and these sodium ion channels, they are occupied by the protonated form of antiarrhythmic drugs. When we consider the acidosis part here, whenever we consider one sodium, it is considered for one proton. Nevertheless, the effect of pH on the antiarrhythmic activity of drug can be complex, as both the free base and the cationic species has been proposed as active form of some drugs. Similarly, when we consider these class 1 drugs, most of these are sodium channel blockers. When when the hydrogen ion concentration is increases, similarly it increases the sodium ions. Uh, for that reason, we are considering here class 1 as a sodium channel blockers, as we have to minimize the sodium concentration. The uncharged form of sodium channel blocker can penetrate directly from the lipid phase of the surrounding cell membrane to block the channel. So this is how the drugs from the class 1 is acting. They are considered and they are penetrated directly from the liquid phase. Small changes in the pH can alter these drugs' effectiveness, and it is by changing the charged to uncharged molecular ratio in the myocardial cells. Similarly, acidosis external to the myocardial cells promotes the cationic form. As acidosis is increased by proton, and we generally consider these cationic forms of protons. Therefore, because it increases its concentration, these protons cannot penetrate through the membranes, because cationics and anionic forms of any salts, they cannot penetrate through the membrane. Therefore, the partitioning in the membrane can be delayed. Because of delayed partitioning, the onset of the drugs also delayed. Uh, Furthermore, the concentration of the drugs in the membrane would be reduced because of delayed action. Therefore, these drugs acts on the channels only, not across the membrane. And specifically, they are acting when they are inactivated or in a closed state. Therefore, it would have a reduced effect in the acidotic condition. When we consider the acidosis, it may also prolong the effect of these drugs, because uh, due to not penetrating through the membranes, and external acidosis facilitates the protonation of receptor bound drugs, because only neutral drugs can dissociate from closed channels, and because of dissociation, the recovery is prolonged by acidosis. And now this is what we have discussed about acidosis, but earlier we have discussed they are weaker bases. So another consideration we have to give here, that is whenever there is acidosis, there is a alkalosis occurs. So alkalosis tends to hyperpolarize the cell membrane, and thereby reducing the effect of anti-arrhythmic drugs. And most of the time, because of these alkalosis, it promotes the formation of more of the free bases of anti-arrhythmic drug. So alkalosis is considered here as an important parameter for the formation of free bases that can be considered as anti-arrhythmic agents, which increases the rate of recovery from the block. Alkalosis inducing salts such as a sodium lactate have been used to counteract the toxicity caused by the anti-arrhythmic quinidine. If we cannot use any salt form of these class 1 drugs, it may produce some kind of toxicity related to the drugs. We'll start with the class 1A antiarrhythmic drugs now. The first drug in the class 1A is quinidine. Quinidine is widely used for acute and chronic treatment of ventricular and supraventricular arrhythmias, especially supraventricular tachycardias. As quinidine is derived from the family of alkaloids, and it is found in cinchona bark. It is known as a Cinchona officinalis, and generally we have a diastereomer of quinine, so it will be quinidine. Despite in their structural similarities, quinidine and quinine differ markedly in their effects on the cardiac muscles, with the effect of quinidine being much more pronounced. Quinine has a very less effect as the diastereomer of quinine, that is quinidine, has having more effect as a When we look at the structure of this quinidine, we have a quinidine ring here which is composed of quinoline. This is a quinoline ring and a bicyclic queen nucleidine. So this is a bicyclic queen nucleidine ring here, and to joint this quinoline and queen nucleidine ring, there is a bridge, and this bridge is a hydroxymethyl bridge that connect these two, quinoline and queen nucleidine ring. If you look at carefully this quinidine, we have considered quinoline and queen nucleidine. We have two nitrogens, they are attached here, and one of the nitrogen is an aromatic form. That quinoline is an aromatic form, and queen nucleidine nitrogen is not an aromatic form. So it is a simple nitrogen. Because of that reason, this queen nucleidine nitrogen is considered as a highly basic nitrogen. So when we consider the basicity of these, because of one aromatic and one simple ring nitrogen, it balances the basicity and it will be a kind of a weaker base. The queen nucleidine pK, nitrogen pK, is around 11, and it is considered as a stronger one because it is not an aromatic form. Because of this basic character of quinidine, it also used as a water soluble salts, and it can form water soluble salts. These salts include quinidine sulfate, quinidine gluconate, or quinidine polygalactonate. It produces a good absorption, is considered after the oral administration. But in some of the special situations, quinidine can be administered intravenously only in a gluconate salt. Therefore, if we consider the use of quinidine as in salt form, in the case of intravenous quinidine, is very rare. Gluconate salt is particularly suited for the parenteral use because it has a higher water solubility and a lower irritant potential. Let us look at the metabolites of the quinidine. Now, if we look at these structures here, these two structures shows two different metabolites. The metabolites are hydroxylated derivatives, and at either the quinoline ring to the first pass O demethylation on this side, or the queen nucleidine ring through the oxidation of vinyl group. So it will be a vinyl group and it will be oxidized to the hydroxylated derivative. These metabolites possesses only one third of its activity as that of the parent drug molecule. The contribution of overall therapeutic effect of quinidine is not known, but significantly, if we consider a well documented literature that shows some interactions of digoxin and quinidine, it was so these interactions described previously in the section of digoxin drug interaction. If we consider, in addition, a common contaminant in quinidine preparation, that is dihydroquinidine, which is generally found because of some impurities present with the quinidine, which is derived from reduction of queen nucleidine vinyl group, at C3. So it will be ethyl group and it contributes to its activity. It is in fact a good structural feature that one contaminant in the quinidine preparation, that is dihydroquinidine, is also active and it contributing to the activity. Although similar to quinidine in pharmacodynamic and pharmacokinetic behavior, This contaminant is both more potent as antiarrhythmic, and it can be considered as a more toxic than the other two. Thus, the level of contaminant can contribute to variability between the commercial preparations. The most of the frequent adverse effect includes is just gastrointestinal disturbances such as nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. The next drug molecule is a procainamide. The procainamide is effective in the treatment of several types of cardiac arrhythmias, as this is derived from one local anesthetic, that is procaine. Now here we have amine-free amine group, and we have amide, and we have terminal nitrogen with a 2 substitution diethyl. So these are two substituted compound, terminal nitrogen. Procainamide is effective in treatment of several types of cardiac arrhythmias. Its actions are similar to those of quinidine. Procainamide can be effective in patients who are responsive to quinidine. The initial development of procainamide was stimulated by the observation that the local anesthetic procaine, that is a ester, and it is derived from the bioisoster of procainamide. When administered intravenously, it produces significant short-lived antiarrhythmic effects. Unfortunately, it is considered that it produces some central nervous toxicity with its shorter duration of action, and but it is useful for the limitation for this agent. Moreover, the procaine is not orally active because of its shorter duration of action, and it has a both chemical and plasma hydrolysis, as we have seen this procainamide and procaine, which is having a similar ester molecule, and it is derived from its bioisoster. It will be amide. Procaine will be ester. Because of that reason, it often undergoes some quick hydrolysis. A logical modification of this molecule was isosteric replacement of ester with amide. This produces orally active procainamide, which is more resistant to both enzymatic and chemical hydrolysis. Peak plasma levels can be observed within 45 minutes to 90 minutes after oral administration, and approximately 70% to 80% of dose still available, bioavailable. Approximately half of this dose is excreted and changed, and its remaining half undergoes acetylation metabolism in the liver. The metabolites of procainamide include para-aminobenzoic acid, that is PABA, and N-acetyl procainamide. Interestingly, the acetylated metabolite is also active as antiarrhythmic. Its formation accounts for up to one-third of administered dose and is catalyzed by liver enzyme, that is N-acetyltransferase. Because of acetylation, it is strongly influenced by an individual genetic background, marked, uh, marked by variability in the amounts of this active metabolite can be observed from patient to patient. The elimination half is approximately 3.5 hours. A substantial percentage, that is 60 to 70% of the patient on procainamide shows elevated levels of anti-nuclear antibodies after a few months. So here, if we consider this procainamide, due to the hydrolysis, it produces two active metabolites, that is paraminobenzoic acid, and N-acetylpropanamide. And this N-acetyl propanamide is considered as an active metabolite, and it is also useful for the activity of anti-arrhythmia. This propanamide is generally used for the several types of cardiac arrhythmias. The next drug here is diazopyramide. Diazopyramide phosphate, it is a phosphate salt that is useful for the diazopyramide, and it is used orally for the treatment of several ventricular and atrial arrhythmias. Based on its mechanism of action and site of action, they are useful for the treatment, as this diazopyramide it is having similar type of structure as that of propanamide, but because of some so this diazopyramide generally considered that they have added a lot of lipophilicity as that of propanamide. So they have similar type of cardiac effects. Diazopyramide is rapidly and completely absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract. Peak plasma level is as a rule reached within 1 to 3 hours, and plasma half-life is considered as a 5 to 7 hours, which is similar to propanamide. Approximately half of the oral dose is excreted and changed in the urine. The remaining drug undergoes hepatic cytochrome P450 isozymes, that is 3A4 metabolism, and it generates the NP-alkylated metabolite. This metabolite remains approximately half of its antiarrhythmic activity of that diazopyramide, and it is also subject to its adrenal excretion. It produces several adverse effects, they are similar to anticholinergic in nature. Because of that reason, it produces dry mouth, blurred vision, constipation, and urinary retention. Next drug in the series is lokenite. Lokenite hydrochloride is a class 1C antiarrhythmic agent, and it is used to help restore the normal heart rhythm and conduction in patients with premature ventricular contraction and ventricular tachycardia. As you can see here, we have added unsaturated drink here, that is piperidine, and it produces higher lipophilicity than the earlier two drugs. Similarly, we have amide, uh, similar to earlier two drugs, that is also useful for the hydrolysis part. So fastly acting voltage gated sodium channels found in higher concentration in ventricular myocytes, which opens at a membrane potential of minus 80 MV in typical cardiac rhythm. This results in a rapid upstroke of an action potential that leads to contraction of ventricles. Then we'll move to the next class, that is class 1B, antiarrhythmic drugs. The first drug in the class 1B is lidocaine. Lidocaine is normally reserved for the treatment of ventricular arrhythmias, but in many times it is useful for the emergency of ventricular arrhythmias. This is a lidocaine, this is a xylene, and again similarly to the propanamide and other the class 1A drugs, we have see here this is amide, and terminally we have diethyl amino group. Its utility in the situation results from the rapid onset of antiarrhythmic effects on intravenous infusion, In addition, these effects cease soon after infusion is terminated. Thus, lidocaine therapy can be rapidly modified in response to dose in the patient's status. Lidocaine is effective as an antiarrhythmic only when given parenterally. Uh, the intravenous route is most common one. Antiarrhythmic activity is not observed after oral administration because, as we have seen, it has a amide, and amides are rapidly undergoes the hydrolysis. Because of that reason, it has an efficient first pass with cytochrome P450 isozymes 3A4 and D2D6 by the liver. This is the metabolism of lidocaine. As you can see here, this terminal nitrogen ethyls, they are deethylated, and it produces one of the metabolite. And furthermore, amidases will cleave the amide group here. It produces two main groups here, that is N-ethylglycine, N-ethylglycine and 2,6-dimethyl aniline. It is also considered as a 2,6-xylidine. So the parenterally administered lidocaine is approximately